Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, the Screenwriting Step-by-Step Project, episode 193, a terrifying number of hours. You do not have to watch them all. My name is Glenn Gers, and I come here every Monday through Friday, if I can make it, at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time Zone, to let you look over my shoulder, share my screen as I write a script. This is not a unified lesson. This is checking in for an hour a day to see the process of writing a script, because I believe that the process, the hammers and nails, line by line, figuring out how to get those thoughts and feelings into words, in scenes and dialogue, that process is undertaught. And I thought the best way that I could show you it is to actually let you watch me walk through it. You don't have to watch the whole thing. Any part that you watch should give you some interesting tips on how I approach the process. I try and keep it really simple, break it down to a couple basic steps that you just do over and over in different ways, applying it to the different problems of each character and story as you come to them. So therefore, it's not the only process. It's not the best process. It's not the sanctified official Hollywood process. It's just the process I figured out for myself because there were no classes and no YouTube, and I was learning in my 25-year career writing TV and movies. Take what works for you. If it doesn't work for you, you don't have to do it. It's not important. The only thing that you need to do is figure out what works for you. If you are getting stuff done and being relatively healthy, do that. This is for when you can't. When what you do doesn't work, try this stuff. If you want more helpful hints, my channel, these first 3 sections of my channel, Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and the process being a writer. This is where I tried to put these lessons. The thumbnails are really simple. They just have big words that say an idea, like flashbacks, genre, dramatic action. Those are 10-minute videos where I tried to give you the most useful recipe cards, index cards, simple ideas that you can apply. Use them if they work. Don't if they don't. Every writer has to have a toolbox of things they try every time they write. This is just some tools for your toolbox. Hello, Cyrus. Hello, Gene. Hello, Mr. Fiction. So for those of you who are in the USA, and those of you who aren't, but especially the ones who are, today is Juneteenth celebrated. Yesterday was the actual Juneteenth, June 19th. Today is the federal holiday in which many post offices, stores, schools are closed, and they should be, but I am here not because I feel like this is an essential service, but because I know that a lot of people, this might be the only time they get to go on because they're at work usually at this time of day. So anyway, I am here on Juneteenth celebrated, but I wanted to suggest to you, I am no authority on Juneteenth. However, I read an amazing essay about it called The True Meaning of Juneteenth by Casey Gerald. It was in the New York Times opinion section. I have put a link to it down below here. You do have to sign up for the New York Times, but it doesn't cost anything apparently to just read some stuff. I don't know exactly how that works, but I do know that if you can read this essay, The True Meaning of Juneteenth by Casey Gerald, I just thought it was really good. I thought it was a really thoughtful, well-said, well-felt statement on the question of how do you deal with something that is both to be celebrated and mourned and is in progress and is history. And it just felt really, really cool. So I urge you guys to read that thing because it's damn good. Okay. Hello, Marta Latoso. Yes, Mr. Fiction in India. I know you are. Hi, Rachel. Yes, good night. It's okay. Go to bed. You can watch this on playback any old time. You can watch this years from now. Not a big deal. Mr. Fiction, get some rest. Okay, so here we are And over the weekend, I did a bunch of thinking about the Crime Crackers project, because I'm sort of at an interesting turning point here of taking some time to write this proposal doc, just so that I can show you what one of those looks like, but also looking at the next step of the rewrite. Hello, Jenny, in England, I believe. So what I did was I wrote a little bit more of the pitch document. I'm gonna try and get that in pretty good shape before I show it to you, because you don't need to watch me hammer out a bunch of essay issues. But what happened while I was doing that was I thought about something. And so one of the things I want to talk about here before we get into any writing is about an important part of the writing process, which is when you stop and realize you have to rethink things drastically. And that's what happened was I was writing the summary, and I was talking about what the show is about. And I was talking about how it's about this group of this couple that gets dragged into this group of crime crackers, the crime fighters, the online web sleuths. And I realized that some of the things that I'm saying the show is about, they're not really in the pilot very much. They're just a little bit. This group, although interesting, is relatively minor. And I'm not sure how much of the pitch is about the relationship of the couple to the group or the group itself. And what happened is I heard in my head the note I was going to get. Notes, by the way, in screenwriting are criticism. No other way to put it. When somebody says I have a note for you, they mean I have a criticism. And so therefore, having done this for 30, 40 years, I know what notes I'm going to get most of the time. Sometimes you get one that's like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. A lot of the time when you are writing something, you know the notes you're going to get. You may be willing to get them. You may just not figure out any way not to get them. But a lot of the time, once you have been doing this for a while. So one of the notes I have is we're not really getting a good sense of how this group works. And that's a fair note. That criticism that I just heard in my head from an imaginary critic, so it's actually me, it's a fair criticism. The truth is, this this pilot does not tell us how this group of crime sleuths works. One of the most important things about this crime sleuths is their failures. They've never solved anything or even gotten any information whatsoever. And I thought, damn, is there a way I can fix that? Because it clued into something that really, wait a second, Jean's got, Doberman's having a tantrum. Aw, no, go play with the dog. We'll be here when you get back. All right. So my point is, I've got this, my outline has 2 or 3 sections where we do Zoom calls, and that's where we get most of the time with the group. And I've always felt, and if you've been watching me, you've seen this. When I get to those Zoom calls, I'm like, I kind of think this will work, but in many ways, I'm troubled by it. I'm trying to figure out how to do it in order to not spend too much time watching a Zoom screen, because as that can work, but it's kind of alienating. Now, I have several times before in my career written stories in which people are communicating like this. The movie that I wrote and directed, Like, Share, Follow, actually is about a YouTuber, and he does not only live chat but live video, and so there are sequences in that movie where I have this community of his fans, one of whom starts to make problems for him. So I've done this sort of thing before. I know how it works, and I know that it can work. But I also know that in this story, I'm kind of... A legitimate criticism of the story is that so far, the group is not getting enough weight. Now, it's just the pilot, and it's entirely possible to build up parts of the story that are only hinted at in the pilot, and they become huge. If you look at the pilot for like Mad Men, there's a lot of people who are they dropped in, you get a little bit of them, you don't know where they're going. That's cool. That's part of the Sopranos, any good pilot. A lot of stories, interesting and important themes, don't show up for 3 or 4 episodes or even for the first season. That can happen. But what I thought was, how can I address this note? How is there something I can do? And I realized, let me see if I get it. Okay, the pilot doesn't really show us here. Let me show you my notes to myself. The pilot doesn't really show us enough of the. Here, let me get rid of that. All right, that's better. Enough of the crime-solving work. It doesn't show the group at work and how the chemistry of killer is only one of many cases they are working on, because these people, they get together every week. They're basically a book club, and they're talking about a lot of different books. So one of the things I thought was, what if I forget the Zoom calls and do a bunch and start the show after George and Madeline are established by showing how all of the people in their separate lives get the word that George is dead and decide to go to George's house. So that instead of doing all these Zoom calls, these people would actually be there. And when I thought that, I thought, oh man, that's pretty good. That's a really good rewrite. But it's huge. That means rewriting large sections of my story. It's a reconception of the story. Now, the question is, am I going to do that? No, I'm not going to do it here. There comes a time when the purpose of this live stream it will be exceeded. That there is no point to actually showing you how ridiculously long and complicated the process of writing a script is. I want to try and show you now that one of the steps would be to then take my draft, rethink it, rewrite large sections of it. I don't think that it's valuable to spend my live stream time doing that. But I do think it's valuable to know that that's actually what you need to do when you write a script. You don't just lock it in and then say, okay, I'm now going to complete the plan and I'm done. The completing of the plan allows you to step back, look at it, and begin again. Criticize the plan. You're not building a cathedral. If you put in 200 years to putting up that stone, you're not going to go, oh, damn, that should be shorter. It's too hard. This is words on a page. It's even better. It's digital words on a page. You can just copy and delete. You can do all sorts of different versions. So do it. Be willing to think about rethinking your project. That is required of a professional screenwriter. Every professional screenwriter spends most of their time coming up with a brilliant plan, a brilliant solution for whatever the task is, bringing it to his collaborators, his or her, there, and finding out that they want something different. And that the result of that is you have to actually rethink it, sometimes over and over. I actually think a more valuable use of this live streams is I'm going to go behind the process of some of the scripts I did write that I did. And I would rather tell you how with Fracture, I worked on that for 5 years at least. There were 6 writers involved. There were all these executives. There were stars. There were different companies. Lots of people wanted different things, and the script kept changing. That is true of everything I have ever done. Even the ones that I had complete control over myself, I still found myself at some point, sometimes after shooting, saying, that's not the best version of that. I couldn't see it until I had worked it out, till I had created it. And now I did reshoots. I did reshoots on both of the movies that I directed, and then re-edited them drastically. So I just want to talk about how I would write this, because this is a really cool idea. I was stuck on this screen thing, on this Zoom thing. And what I thought of is, it's really a neat idea because of the seriousness of George's death. They would show up. So by having them show up, we are showing that this is an extreme moment. A member of this group, which up to now has been just a book club, actually got murdered by a serial killer. They are on this. So I really like this idea. It's huge. It's a huge rethink, even though there's a lot of scenes that will just stay the same. All the Norman and Madeline stuff will stay the same. But all the stuff where they're encountering all the people, especially that crucial last scene I had so much trouble with, where I was like, how do I get them to be talking on speakerphone to deacons with all of them participating? Solved. It's fabulous. So this is what I did over my weekend, in addition to Juneteenth and Father's Day and everything else. So anyway, I'm not going to rewrite this. It would take too long. I'm going to talk about the plan for it. And maybe down the line after who knows, maybe I'll come back to this and write it. The purpose of this project is not to sell the script. The purpose of this project is to teach you guys how one writes a script. And sometimes taking another year would not really be teaching you the right thing. Anyway, the things I want to talk about here are one of the, here. These are the notes. These are just notes of the writing that I wrote to myself. Might as well have words on the screen instead of my face. This is a really common experience. It's part of writing. This is not like, oh, this is when it went wrong. This is a normal part of writing. Okay, certainly of screenwriting, but honestly, I know about a lot of novelists who do the same thing. Certainly playwrights. That's the whole reason that playwrights do previews and show it and workshops. They take it out of town, or they take it to a smaller theater. They get it on its feet. They watch it and they go, oh, that's too short. That's too long. That person, they're acting out of character. You can't see it till you see it. And you can't see it until you've written it, until you've done the work. So having to stop and think and rewrite is just writing. It's not like a different part. Writing and rewriting is just writing. It's all writing. It's all the same thing. Hi, Natasha. Hi, Dan. Hi, Anshul. Namaste to you too. Great to see all of you. Okay, so I want to talk about this part. I can tell you how devastating and frightening it can be to kill yourself to get a script right, and then find out that somebody wants something hugely different. and because it's business, you got to do it. There is no, you can always just walk away from a deal, but if it's a job, you have to do what they ask. So getting comfortable with the idea of rethinking is crucial. The only thing I can say is the more you do it, the less terrible it seems. When it first happened to me, it was my first script, and after 12 years after I wrote it, it finally sold, okay? It had been optioned once. I wrote it. I kept rewriting it because people would like it but have notes, and so I rewrote it drastically. If you rewrite something over and over, getting professional notes for 12 years, it's better and drastically different. And at that point, I got to, it sold through a wacky set of circumstances. It was optioned by a big studio for big stars, and they asked me to take out the main story. I'm not kidding. To take out the heart of the story, to take out the 6 questions, all 6 gone. So I was like, I don't know what to do. I had a nervous breakdown. I was crying, sobbing for days every time I tried to write, and every time I talked to somebody about it. It was bad. What I learned after that in other jobs, because by the way, I failed. I did it badly. And they just took it away. They said, no, we'll just get someone else to do it. And then they failed at that and they gave it back to me. Anyway, the whole point is you think, first of all, I cannot imagine this a different way. So learning that things can be imagined, anything can be imagined a different way. And in Hollywood, it will be. Famously, there's so many famous stories of like where you'll have something where somebody will say like, a movie about ice skaters. And they'll be like, does it have to be ice skaters? or like The Godfather is like, could we not have it be about gangsters? Yes, they will actually say that. And sometimes you do need to rethink that drastically. Anyway, but worse than that, worse than getting that flexibility, which that's just a matter of practice. If you practice, take one of your scripts and write it and then rethink it, like just as a challenge. How could I do this drastically differently? But the worst part is you thought, well, I was sure this was right. And now, if it's not right, how do I know the next thing that seems right won't be right? The answer is you don't. There isn't actually a right or wrong. There is the group or the people with money or you decide to land on one. There's no right or wrong. There are things that succeed and fail. That doesn't mean they were right. It doesn't mean they were wrong. Things that were right will fail. Things that were wrong will succeed. That's just the fact of being a working artist in an art business. But one of the things I want to talk to you is, how do you know when a note is right? And there's one thing one of the things you have to learn is how to do a note when it's not right. But often you know it's right because it just clicks into a place where you knew it was wrong. Like I said to you guys, when I was thinking about this story, these Zoom sequences have always felt wrong. I've always said I can make this work. But I've always said this is not quite right yet. This is not quite feeling like I've got it. So if you then think of a different way to do that thing, or if somebody just says you have to get rid of that thing altogether, there's a part of you that goes, oh my God, that's been bothering me all along. I have to take this seriously because they are noticing a thing that I knew was wrong. It often feels bad and scary to throw away your work, but you'll be surprised how a part of you will get interested. Be like, I didn't think of that. Like when I thought of this idea, I thought, oh my God, why did I assume they had to stay online? Why couldn't they physically meet? This would be the story of how online people physically meet. That in itself is interesting. Do I have room for it? I don't know, but I'll try. The main thing is it feels bad, but it also feels kind of exciting. You think, oh, I've got things to do now. I've got things I want to try. I wonder how to make that work. As opposed to, oh crap, this is just carrying bricks for somebody else. There's a very specific feeling where somebody's asking you to do something that you just don't want to do and know it's wrong. When you get a good note, sometimes not, sometimes you just feel, I can't believe I have to throw out all my work, but this is not a bad idea. So that's important to just remember. I feel the rewriting part so much. Yes. Rewriting and thinking. It's just rethinking all the time. Rewriting is writing. Absolutely. Or even better, writing is rewriting. They're both, rewriting is writing. Oh, I said that, didn't I? Thank you. It's not a lesser writing. It's not correcting something. Rewriting is the same thing you were doing before. You're just using the materials you already have. Hello, Kirby. So anyway, that's what I was working on, and I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about just the opening scene. I got a note from Donna N in Australia, who was watching this, and she was watching me wrestle with the first scene, the scene where George is doing his speech, and I was wrestling with the problem that George is doing a podcast that has been a running podcast for a while, and yet I wanted a sort of introductory feeling. And she offered two solutions. The first one is, what if we see other people listening to the first episode? Ideally, the Norman or Madeline. And the reason I didn't want to do that is because I want this to start with the murder. This is a whodunit. This whole story starts with the murder. It's just a good hooky scene. And when you're thinking of your structure, one of the things you think of is, somebody turns this on, in the first few minutes, I want to hook them. I want them to feel, I wonder what's going to happen now because this thing happened. In this case, George says he's going to, a nobody serial killer hunter is killed by the serial killer. That is in itself interesting if you like serial killer stories. So that one I don't want to change. I don't want to change that we're hooking in with the late episode and the murder. However, she also said, what if each episode begins with a brief outline, like a brief summary of how he got to where he is. In other words, if he starts saying, okay, this is where we are. I've been hunting this guy for a while. This is who he is, blah, blah, blah. That's not a bad idea. That's an interesting way to solve that. That's a kill your darlings thing. That's I loved the tone of the things I had before. However, that may not be worth protecting. So I haven't really decided on that. Okay. Hi, Javier. Yeah. Good day for a rewrite. What is quapla? Let me know about that. Hello, Ches. What do you do when a producer gives you a note you know is wrong, but you make it? You have no choice. You have to understand. Well, let's get, and I am going to eventually, I'm working on a video about notes, but here's the central issue. Do you own the project? Okay. Here's the thing. If you own a project, it means you have the rights to it because you created it and you have not taken any money for it. If you have taken money, the person who gave you the money in screenwriting only, this is not true in theater, not true in fiction, but weirdly, for various reasons, historical reasons, screenwriters give up the copyright to their work when they take money for it. And so therefore, if you sell your work to someone, like if somebody takes an option on your script and asks you to do a rewrite and they pay you to do that rewrite, anything you write in that rewrite, you do not own, even though it's a rewrite of your original. You still own the original if they never buy it. But if somebody pays you to, this is complicated stuff, I'm sorry. If somebody pays you to do a rewrite, you don't own the rewrite. And if your deal falls apart and you end up, like with that script I was telling you, my first script, I optioned it to a studio. I did a full rewrite. They hated it. They kept the option for 3 years, and then the script came back to me. The rewrite is theirs. So anything I did in the rewrite, I can't use. I can only take back my original and start again. So that's the way that works. If you are hired to write a script, if you take money, if you go to somebody and say, hey, I've got an idea for a script, would you give me money to write it? And they give you money to write it, they own that script. They can take it, they can hire someone else to rewrite it, they could put it on the shelf and never have anyone look at it again. I have had all these things happen to me with scripts I have written, some of which were jobs, some of which were originals. The point is, that is what owning a script means. So if they own it, if there is money involved and you take money to do the rewrite, you don't own it, and you have to do what they say or leave. If a producer comes to you and says, I like your script, but I'm not going to buy it unless you make this change, and you go and rewrite it and he hasn't paid you, you own it. You don't have to do that. And worse, he could often say, I still don't like it, and not pay for it. So one of the things is when somebody says, oh, if you do this, I will pay you. Remember, that's 90% of the time it's bullshit. Just forgive my language. Anyway, the point is there's a strong dividing line between what you own and what someone else owns in script writing, not in other kinds of writing. So the answer to Kirby's original question is, what do you do when a producer gives you a note you know is wrong, but they want you to make the change anyway? If they are saying, I like your script, I'm not going to pay you to do anything, I'm not going to buy it, but if you change this, maybe I will, you decide. If you think it's a bad note, don't do it. Tell them no. You don't want them to buy it anyway. If they're giving you a bad note, why do you want them to buy it? They're going to wreck your script. Sometimes you say, I want money so badly I will wreck my own script. Great, but remember, they haven't paid you yet. And very, very often, they'll say, didn't come out as good as I thought, and they won't pay you. So be really careful about working for the promise of money. The promise of money is no money. So that's the first thing. If you are working on a job, you have been hired, or someone has optioned your script and paid you for a rewrite, and they say make a change, you kind of have to make the change. You have to make it as well as you can, considering you think it's bad. This is one of the key elements of being a professional writer. To say, I have to learn the skill to take a bad note and make the best version of it I can, even though I will never make it a good note. It's not a good idea. It's going to suck. I'm going to make it suck as little as possible. That's what you do. You have no choice. For those of you who are interested in this part of the business, there is a podcast that I really like that talks a lot about this stuff, because it's called The Screenwriting Life, by two writers I know and respect a lot, Meg Lefauve and Lorianne McKenna. They're both very involved in the studio system. They have done really big things, worked at Pixar and Marvel, and they talk about the personal experience of writing in a really great way, and about the professional deals you have to make and the problems you face. So I urge you to check out the Screenwriting Life podcast. It's just really good. And they have a Facebook group for those of you who are not refusing to use Facebook, which I would understand. However, they do have a Facebook group. If you have listened to the podcast, you can apply to be in this group. They ask you like a question about the podcast, which you'll easily answer if you listen to it just once. The main thing is that group is full of other writers who are trying to support each other. Everyone's scrambling to learn how to do this thing. There's a really terrific group of people who asking really good questions, giving really good advice, talking about what they're doing. It's a really great group. So I would just say that is well worth looking into. Okay. Yes, exactly. That is the deal we are going to work in. Hello, Orfe. Okay. Oh wait, I need to find out for what quapla. A phrase to wish fortune to someone. Quapla. Oh, it's the Klingon dictionary. Yes. Well played, Javier. Very, very nice. Quapla. That's of course not Klingon, but you know what I mean. Okay. So let me just get to, there's another question about people give. Okay. Do you have any advice for finding people to give feedback for a script? I'm on my third draft of my short, but I feel like I'm overthinking it, but also have to wait for a while for feedback. Well, honestly, waiting is part of it. I would say show it to anyone you can who's in the business. And show it to some people who are out of the business, like somebody who just doesn't know anything about scripts. The problem is they have a hard time reading scripts, but it's very valuable to see what they do and don't understand. But at your stage, Chaz, when you have so little experience, anything that anyone says is interesting. if only because you might think a thing is clear, and you'll find that nobody is getting it. That's something you need to notice, because it just may be a formal thing of how you are expressing it. Sometimes it's just how you're describing something. Or sometimes you want to describe something that really you can't control. Whatever it is, the more, at the phase that you are at, the more people you show it to, the better. Actors, show it to designers, show it to cinematographers, show it to film students. You're going to get a lot of crappy advice. Here's the thing about getting advice. Okay, everyone wants to know about this. How do you get good advice? You get a lot of advice and you throw out the bad. Okay, that's how you get good advice. There's no way to control, from professionals to paid people to your favorite, most revered artist. They're all going to give you bad advice sometimes, because it's a matter of opinion. Okay? Nobody knows anything. Ask William Goldman, the guy who invented that phrase. Nobody knows anything. All you can do is try to show it to a lot of people, because if a lot of different people have the same opinion, it's likely that that opinion is from something in the work. If a lot of different people have a lot of different opinions, that's good. That's normal, because that's true of any. Think about everything you like. Think about your favorite movies and your least favorite movies and shows. Think about the opinions that people have about them. People that you know and like, people that you can't stand, they have different opinions, because that's humanity. That's art. So therefore, nothing wrong with getting a lot of different opinions. But what you want to look for is, if you get a lot of the same opinion, that's not different people, that's you. That's something you did. So that's what you want to do. But essentially, and I think this is just sort of a good rule for every writer, show it to as many people as will put up with it. If anyone will read it, have them read it. You wrote it to read. It's like saying, I want to only show my painting to certain people. Put it up on the wall, let everybody look at it. So that's my feeling about getting advice. Just get a lot of it, and then your job is to figure out which parts of it are useful to you. There's nothing wrong with somebody giving you advice that sucks. That's just what happens. That's what advice is. But what'll happen is, now and then, like I gave myself this advice, I'll be like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. That solves a problem, or that creates a new problem, but damn, that's a good problem to have, because I'm making this better. One way or another, when you hear something, if somebody is saying, I hate your main character because they betrayed their brother, and you were thinking, oh, cool, he betrays his brother, everyone will love him for that. That's something to think about. Why are they hating this thing that I thought they loved? That's just the way that works. You need to decide, I can live with them hating him because I believe in this, or I want them to hate it. That's okay. Those are all legitimate. The thing that is not legitimate is to try and find the right person to give you the super special, reliable advice. Ain't no such thing. I have given best friends, cinematic heroes, super professionals my work, and gotten great advice and bad advice. No way to know. Okay. You're saying you don't want to send it to friends? I have to tell you, one of the things that's pretty cool is anybody who's reading it, they're going to get something. Now, their advice, their experience, their response may be uninformed. They may not understand how it's going to work, but they might say, oh, I didn't think that was funny, when there was somebody saying something funny. It's something to take seriously. Even somebody who doesn't know anything about anything, they have an opinion, and it's worth thinking about it. Why did they think that? Oh, they thought it because they like things I don't like. Okay, cool. All right. This is a good question. In other words, if you are writing a feature that you're planning to be part of a trilogy, and then in theory, yes, you could do that. You could say, you could add to the, finish the script, and then have a little, and I would keep it really short, 2-3 pages tops. This is what the other 2 installments would be of this franchise. that's worth doing. Absolutely. Okay. You are welcome. Okay. I've been working on a few stories of different genres. I actually never took track of the time. Tonight I realized it took nearly a decade for some. Yes, that is, and the question is it normal? Well, normal is one of my least favorite words because what does it even mean? Is it average? First of all, writing isn't normal, right? I mean, writing is not a normal thing to do. So among writers, is it normal for something to take nearly a decade to write a story? I don't know. Normal for me. I am the novel I'm going to write when I finish doing this video teaching thing. I started in 1994. Okay, I got the idea and I started to make notes on it 25 years ago, 30 years ago. I don't know. Whatever it was, it's a long time ago. Yeah, it's not unusual. It depends. Some things, they come out, they're boom, you're done in 6 months. Kind of. It depends. If you are finding that you can't write anything that doesn't take 10 years, if that's the case, it's not the end of the world. Just make a plan for a process in which you say, I'm starting something now. I know I won't finish it for 10 years. Cool. Start a bunch of them so that they're coming off the assembly line every few months in 10 years. The problem with that is not a question of normal. It's a question of, if you want to be a professional writer, that they won't buy that. They won't say, hey, here's the payment for a script, come back in 10 years. You're expected to do it in 2 or 3 months. So practice that skill if you want to be a paid professional writer. Natasha is talking about, I had a non-script reader read my script, and the POV was interesting and similar professionally because he knew what he wanted to see on TV and movies. Yes, exactly. Most people are audience. Now and then you might get a reader who's like, I've never seen a movie. But most of the time, and I have to tell you, when I did my movie Disfigured, I directed this movie and I edited it and I had a rough cut and I wanted to show it to some people to get a sense of how it was playing. I did as an audience of maybe 20 people, but I divided them into a third of them were real professionals. A third of them were people who were working in the industry, but not really, like they were assistants to professionals and things like that. They were learning to be professionals. And then a third of the people were just friends of friends who were like, yeah, sure, I'll watch a movie. The ones who were the most professional had the least imagination. And they could not, there were some unconventional things that happened in the story. And they were like, well, you can't do that. That doesn't work. And the people who were just ordinary people were like, I love that. That worked perfect. I felt that. It worked fine. It's very valuable to get non-professionals to see your work, especially if you are trying to do something that is not exactly by the formula. Okay. Bye, Cyrus. Hope you have a good time. Good luck. Okay. Yeah, it's surprising and helpful to get critiques. Okay. It's tricky. I would recommend, theoretically, if you can write shorter scripts, write them because you can write more of them. You can write them more quickly. I can never write anything short. It's very hard for me to write something short. So therefore, I've never done it. But if you can do it, do it. Absolutely. If you can write shorts, if you can make shorts, you will get more experience out of it. The disadvantage is usually short things don't have a market. In other words, if you are going to hire someone to write a feature and all they've written is shorts, you'll be a little worried that they don't know how to write a feature. So down the line, you want to do that. But when you're learning your basic skills, how to write scenes, how to write a story, yeah, do shorts because you could do 5 of them in the time it would take you to do a feature, and 5 is better than 1. Yeah, absolutely. The main thing is do them and show them to people. That's what we've been saying. You get a lot from seeing what happens when it is finished and observed by a stranger. Watched the Princess Bride movie and read the first draft script. Most of the script hadn't made it onto the movie. That's absolutely true. Most scripts are not the finished film. They change things. Yes, that is absolutely true. Down the line, you wanna learn how to do longer scripts because that. Although the good thing about shorts now is you can release it yourself and people will watch it. It's like, oh yeah, put it on YouTube, somebody will watch it. Cool. But yes, longer scripts are a different form, and so eventually you want to learn that form. Yes, it is great to read scripts and watch movies at the same time. I heartily agree. In fact, I agree so much that I did a video about this called Take Art Apart. And for those of you who have not seen it, I would say, see it. Oh, hi, Donna. I was talking about you. I was telling them about your thoughts about the opening of the episode and the two possible ways that I could get George's intro into a middle episode. And the idea that he might start every episode by sort of summarizing where he got to was a really interesting idea. And the reason that I was interested in the other idea of people listening to the first episode, is that I wanted to start with the murder. Wanted to have it be nice and hooky. And nothing hooks people like a murder. Okay. Given work in a week. Yeah. Okay, good. Wow, if you can do work in a week, you're good. Take your time on the other stuff. For novels with a long list of novels, oh yeah. Trilogy had its origins when I was in high school. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Bruce is telling the truth. Everybody takes a long, especially if you're not a full-time writer who's experienced and professional, it's hard to find the time. It's hard to make the time to write something long and complicated. Okay, cool. I called you Donna N because I didn't want to identify you without asking your permission. I'm a beginner comic book artist, however, I want to write my own scripts for comics. Would you approach a comic different than a movie, TV show? Slightly, but not a lot. The thing is that the thing about movies and TV shows is they have rather strict formula that the business relies on. You actually can write a movie or a TV show that's completely breaking the formula, but it sometimes has a hard time getting through the business. I don't know about the formula for a comic book. However, I will say that the basic concept of storytelling and character and the use of non-verbal elements, they make scripts and comics very closely allied. I assume you know about Scott McCloud's 3 books, Understanding Comics, Making Comics, Reinventing Comics. Let me know if you don't, because those are really useful. A lot of what I do know about comics, I learned from those books. Yes, in my experience, story tells you how long it should be. In fiction, yes, absolutely. And in fact, it's really important to start to recognize, just like everything else I've been saying here, you go into anything with a preconception of what it's going to be. Sometimes that's accurate, but sometimes it's not. And if you cling too hard to the preconception, oh, this is going to be in 5 acts. Oh, this is going to be 1,000 pages long. Oh, this is going to be 20 pages long. If you're not open to the fact that as you work on it, you may discover something new about it, you're likely to not do as good work. Most good work comes out of a process of discovering by doing. Yeah, so that's a lot of what I understand about comics. I understand through understanding comics, and the other two. The other 2 books are really good too. Anyway, but the answer is basically yes. I believe that a good comic is a screen story, and a good screen story is kind of a comic. They are similar in that you are using different elements of storytelling, and it's very easy to get lost in the visuals or get lost in the graphics. And the really good ones are the ones that remember that there's characters and story driving it. Cool. Thank you. I actually really appreciate that. I think that actually is we're going to start to leave because I'm not going to beat that for praise. I appreciate that. It's really my goal. My goal is to come on here and try to say things that other people don't say because the other people are saying the other things. And by the way, that's kind of my advice for you as creative artists. Don't just do what everyone else is doing. Don't just do what everyone tells you to do. If someone is telling you this is how it's done, then you're just doing their thing. And sometimes the really cool thing is to think, well, what are they not doing? Because that just by its nature is going to be interesting. Anyway. Hey, this is Kitschy. Oh, cool. Neat. Yes, and that's the thing is that, to say comic book like, at this point, comics and film have influenced each other visually so much that there's a shared language. There's interesting angles and close-ups and stuff. The cool thing about comics is you can change the shape of the frame and do there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. But the main thing you want to think about is how the form, the overlying comic form, web series form, radio drama form, how that form expresses an underlying dramatic narrative, or an essayistic lyrical narrative. I'm not saying that you have to do a dramatic narrative. Most of them are what sell, but that's opening up a lot. Anyway, the point is the form is over the content. And what happens is most people who learn the form, they think somehow that the content is in the form. It's not. Form and content are blended. The form expresses the content doesn't exist without the form. However, it is really important to recognize the qualities of a narrative, which have nothing to do with what form they are in. The needs of a character, the idea of an obstacle, the idea of suspense because you don't know what is going to happen, but you know that somebody wants something to happen. They're trying to make something happen. That's what causes narrative. Anyway, those are my thoughts on comics. Cool. Is it a good thing to break the rules of storytelling to write original? No, it's not good or bad. It depends on what you want. First of all, what you're trying to do. If you are trying to break the rules because the rules will sort of smother your message, yes. You don't just want to break rules because breaking rules is good, because then, honestly, then your rule is on breaking rules. And you'll see that. There's a lot of work where you're like, they're just breaking rules in order to do what they think will get attention for them, or because they think breaking rules is cool. But the rule breaking is not motivated by the vision or the narrative. So what I would say is you want to know the rules. You want to be able to use the rules, and you want to recognize when the rules don't work and go around them. That's what you want to do. There's no absolute rule about whether or not you stick to the rules. People in my country do not write steampunk, so I will try and tell you. Yes, there you go. What country are you in? How is there a country without steampunk at this point? Cool. Well, you're clearly not in Japan. Okay, all right. Collector of vintage comic books. Yes, absolutely. Learning the history of different arts, and especially the art you work in, is vital to being able to do that art. All right, everybody. I am winding towards my end for the day. Just for the day. Don't panic. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you for all the support and coolness that I've been receiving here. So yeah, I'm not sure what I'm doing tomorrow. We'll see, won't we? I might go work on the script some more, or I might do an AMA. I don't know. I just know I'll be here tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And until then, go write something.